Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Today, we are joined by Wayne Marcel, the head of growth at FIO Protocol and the co-founder of LearnVault. Blockchain Wayne, welcome to the show.
Hey, Adrian, thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about FIO, a little bit about LearnVault, and why the people call you Blockchain Wayne?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit about myself. I've always been a tech enthusiast, but I didn't really follow that path initially in life. Got out of high school, went to college. Actually was going for computer science and ended up pivoting from that and working in retail management for many years. But, you know, as would be, I guess it was around 2016, decided to take a look at Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, kind of dismissed it for a few years as a fad. And I realized how big this thing could be, how much good could come from this in the world. And most people didn't understand it, and there was a big educational gap. So started podcasting in 2018 under the name Blockchain Wayne, just because it has that ring to it. So I was like, let me see how this rolls, and it's kind of stuck. Here we are, almost 8 years later, and it's still what most people know me as today.
So for those of us, can you explain a little bit about what blockchain is for those of us that don't know?
Yeah, the simplest way to describe it is understanding what it's the opposite of. So a blockchain network is a decentralized ecosystem, decentralized network that allows, it basically prevents any one person or entity from controlling it. So when you think of the money in your bank, we've seen this recently multiple times. One server goes down at a bank and nobody can withdraw money because of this glitch, right? That's one issue. And sometimes there may be a backup server, but there's not enough redundancy. So imagine instead of having these central servers, you have nodes of the network running all over the world, to where even if one whole country loses power, that network will still continue. And it also creates an environment of trust, because if any one person tries to input anything malicious or alter any code, the rest of the network will reject it, because it's like having a pot of money in the room and everybody circled around it looking at it. Nobody can get away with taking that when everybody's watching it, right? So that's kind of the essence of what it is. Cryptocurrency and Bitcoin in general. Bitcoin is just the first cryptocurrency. There's several others. Some of them are going to have long-lasting effect. Others are just fads that are going to come and go. But it's just basically we live in a digital world. So creating a content type where I can send you money as easy as I can send an email without having to worry about like our current system, where if I wanted to send you something and you're on the other side of the world, have to go through multiple different currency exchanges. And then you've got banks and Western Union and MoneyGram and others that are taking 30, 40, 50% from people. So you can create a payment system that's open to anybody. That's the other beauty of it too. A lot of our world is excluded from banking systems, and being able to have a system to where you can have have your own banking system on your own phone. I mean, even in some of these third world countries, they do have the basic cell networks with the Nokia smartphones, and being able to transact in value without having to rely on some bank to say, yes, you can have an account, or no, you can't.
So what are some of the problems that FIO is helping solve?
Yeah. So I always like to compare what we do at FIO with with what you see in other technology adoption cycles, right? The internet. So when you think about the internet, you go back to internet adoption. Internet was around for a long time before we all started using it, right? But when we all started using it, adoption really grew fast. And what happened was there was a lot of complexities in the internet that were hidden. They're still there, but they're hidden from the everyday user. Most people don't even realize it. So when you used to have to go to a website address before these new protocols came about on the internet, you had to remember an IP address for a website. So if I wanted to go to your website, I would have to know that IP number, that 10.10. whatever, right? I'd have to know those numbers and memorize them. Well, then we came out with a protocol that created a system where it's human readable website addresses, www.whatever.com, right? That it's still taking you to an IP address in the background, but you don't even know that because all you see is the website address. Well, a similar problem exists in digital currencies. there's multiple different blockchain networks. There's the Bitcoin network, Ethereum, Solana. They all have different purposes, different use cases, different pros and cons of why people would want to use them, right? The same, if I'm going to, in the future, if I'm going to buy a piece of property, I'm probably going to use the Bitcoin blockchain for that transaction. It's the most secure. But if I'm going to buy a bag of chips at a convenience store and I'm paying with crypto, I want the fastest network, right? The one that's going to get processed the fastest. So there's multiple different chain addresses. So every network has what we call public wallet addresses. Those wallet addresses are usually a string of 20 to 30 characters of letters and numbers. Now, that's important for encryption, but it's not important for the user. But if you get it wrong, you can send your assets to the wrong address and lose your funds forever. So what FIO does, and similar to what I was talking about with internet adoption, we hide all those complexities from the user to where instead of having to copy and paste these long wallet addresses and potentially make a mistake and send to the wrong address, or say you select the wrong network and you want to send something on the Bitcoin network and you actually send it on the Ethereum network and it's gone forever. We put those guardrails that stops the user from sending it, and they can send using a human readable address, very much like an email address, user at domain. So it could be Adrian at Leduc Entertainment or whatever you want it to be.
Right.
And that would resolve and make sure the user gets the right wallet address, no matter what asset they're sending. So the protocol not only simplifies it, but it's interoperable with every single other blockchain network to where it doesn't matter what you're sending. It's one universal handle for all public chain addresses. So it creates that simple experience to where the user doesn't even have to see all those complexities of, oh, I got to make sure I don't mess up and send to the wrong address. It can be very stressful. I've sent a lot of value over the years over these networks. And it can be stressful when you're copying and pasting those wallet addresses, because your options are you got to check and make sure every letter and number is correct in that string that you copy and paste it. And one mistake and it could be gone. So instead of relying on users to, hey, you just have to learn better and you learn and do better, we put those guardrails to where it doesn't matter. If you type the handle wrong, it won't let you send it. If you type the handle right, but what I'm trying to send it to is not a valid address on that network, it won't let me send it.
Right.
And so it just simplifies the user experience. Another piece of our protocol creates using that handle system, it creates a Venmo or PayPal type experience for any crypto. So imagine being able to send someone a payment request. In fact, Armando, we do business. We're a customer, a partner of Leduc Entertainment. So when he sends me an invoice, he also sends me a FIO request to pay him in crypto as well. So he sends me a request with what crypto he wants, how much he wants, and a memo as to what it's for, right? I just got February invoice. So when I open it in my wallet, I don't have to type anything to him. I just hit the approve button and it sends it to him.
Wow.
So it's all about simplicity. At the end of the day, we're looking to simplify the user experience because we realize that is the key to mass user adoption.
And can you break down for me a little bit, because we were talking a little bit about it before the show.
Yeah.
I was saying FIO, but it's an acronym, right?
Right. Yeah. So we answer to both. It's kind of tomato, right? Which I don't know anybody says tomato, but anyway, it's always the same.
What does that actually break down as?
Yeah. So it breaks down as Foundation for Inter-Wallet Operability. We are at our core, we're a nonprofit foundation. So we launched this protocol and the own FIO blockchain 5 years ago with the help of Binance and some other large entities in the crypto space. And so now the protocol itself is governed by the blockchain ecosystem. Our partners, our nodes, everybody's running the network. And we as a foundation focus on user adoption and building new tools to utilize the FIO protocol. So it's at our core, we're a nonprofit foundation, but yeah, it's an acronym. So if you say FIO, you say FIO, we're going to answer to both because there's no wrong way to say it.
So how did you get started in the cryptocurrency space? I mean, a lot of people seem to, I think almost unfairly, sometimes, and maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah.
I think some people have, a little bit of unfounded wariness of crypto. Yeah. And where do you think that comes from? And how did you get over that to get started in this space?
Yeah. So to start with like some people's opinion, then I'll jump into my background.
Yeah.
Most people had that because there is, like, you are moving from a system where if I mess up on something in my bank, I can call my bank and they can reverse it. Right. But with cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, you have 100% ownership and control. So the good thing is, like, how sometimes you may just want to buy something, nothing illegal, nothing unethical, but your bank may block the transaction, right? Because they think something's wrong. And that's a problem. Like you're being prevented from being able to spend or utilize your money. Well, with cryptocurrency, you have 100% control and ownership. The problem with that, you have 100% responsibility as well. So there's a lot of things you can do to mess up to lose that money. Kind of like I talked about with sending to the wrong address. We're trying to build guardrails to prevent that. And so there's also, it's an open system. Anybody can create anything in this world. And so there are, just like when there's new technology and there's people that don't understand it, there's a lot of scams out there too. And so that is really where people can get weary about that. And I think education is the key to that. Good protocols and education is really the key to fixing that. But the way I got in was in 2016, I had a friend actually mention to me one day, stop ignoring Bitcoin. I was complaining about an investment I made that in the stock market that went almost to zero. Like it basically went from about 25K in value to 3K in value. And so I was like, man, I got 3K left. I need to put it in something. If I lose the last 3K at this point, oh well. And he just made that comment to me. And I had been ignoring Bitcoin for several years, thinking it was just a fad. How can something like that have value? And I realized I didn't really understand it to say no. And that's when it clicks for me. And that when I'm saying no to something that I don't even understand yet, I have to get an understanding of that. So I went down this rabbit hole of learning about Bitcoin, digital currency, but I also went down the rabbit hole of studying our current financial systems and the history of money. And that was eye-opening, to say the least, when I realized all the issues with our current financial systems in terms of our currency not being backed by anything, right? They can just print money at will. A banking system that relies on fractional reserve banking. Like every bank, they don't keep your money, they lend it back out. And so if everybody would go to the bank tomorrow to withdraw their money, every bank is insolvent if they have a bank run where everybody tries to withdraw their money. And you realize that creates a lot of fake money in the system, because if I deposit money in and they say maybe hold 10% of that in the bank and another 90% they lend out, and somebody else gets that money and they go to another bank and they deposit that somewhere else, well, then you're creating additional numbers in the system that don't exist. And so it really opened my eyes to how inflation really works, why prices keep going up, and some of the problems we have, especially with our national debt being out of control. And what Bitcoin and cryptocurrency can do, the good ones, right? The good projects that are out there that are building, is they can create digital scarcity to where no one person can manipulate. There's a set supply of Bitcoin and it's never going to go up. And so when you start understanding some of those things, you may not, and I realized I didn't truly understand Bitcoin completely yet, but I was like, holy crap, we've got a problem, and what's the solution? Right. And that's kind of where I also realized that there's not a lot of education on this stuff. And so 2017, I really spent some time teaching others that I knew personally, the ones that would listen. A lot of my friends and family told me I was crazy. And then 2018 was when I started podcasting. I put out a book on Amazon under the same name as my podcast, From No Crypto to No Crypto. So from NO to KNOW. And I started podcasting. And just as I would learn something, I would teach about it. And then I started bringing people onto the podcast. And that eventually led to me working with different companies, creating educational content, like helping them. Because when you go to any different cryptocurrency project's website or social media account, people need to understand and learn the basics at some point. And so we were doing that for a lot of people. I had a few other people we joined up with to collaborate on. And then that led to me having conferences, in the crypto space in Miami. We had a few conferences in 2021, 2022. And in 2021 was when I connected with some of our sponsors, and I started doing some work for some of those, and led to leaving that 24-year corporate career, retail management, to jump into this full time with FIO, because I used to tell people for years, there's two things that's going to drive user adoption: education and simple user interfaces. And so it's kind of everything I said was kind of coming together. Okay, I'm building educational tools, and here's a tool that will really make the process simple for users.
Well, and to go off of that educational tool, speaking about the importance of education in this space, can you tell us a little bit about LearnVault?
Yeah, so LearnVault it's a collective. It's an educational consortium. There's 5 of us that we've worked together for many years, creating educational content for different companies, projects, and tools. But we never built up our own system, because we felt the best way to disseminate this information, if people are seeking out these certain projects they want to learn more about, that's where they're, have our education there. And so it's worked out very well for us over the years. But at the same time, we realize that as in the startup world, a lot of companies, even good companies, don't make it, right? And so we realized that a lot of that content we had put out was just not available anymore. So what we did is a while back, we decided to start a school community. If you're familiar with school, SKOOL, started a school community, took some of our existing content, put in a free course in there, added some additional free stuff. So it's free to join the school community and learn more about it. And we started building out kind of some basics courses. One of them, the one we have coming out next week, is called Get Off Zero. So Get Off Zero is the basics of anything and everything you want to know to learn about. So we're going to have that launch. It's going to be available through the school community as well. Small one-time fee for people to join it. But then they'll also have access because school gives you a almost like a community board to where people can ask questions, answer questions. And so it's not just about, hey, there's a lot of places that have good educational content, but we wanted to build that community where people not only can get the content, but get their questions answered as well too, because that's really what it is. I think that what stops a lot of people is they may be able to see something on YouTube or something that sounds good, but then they try to do it themselves and they get stuck. And so we're launching that. There's going to be, we're going to continue to add to that. And then we're also adding in some consulting packages to where it could be like a one-off, like maybe you have a hardware wallet, which is a cold storage wallet for cryptocurrency, one of the most secure ways to store crypto, but people have a hard time setting that up. So if it's a one-time, you need help getting on a Zoom and we walk you through that, how to do that, all the way to someone could buy a package. So I say maybe for the next 3 months, they get so many hours of help that they can book times with us to get that help. So it's really just about furthering education, helping people get past the barriers that stop them from looking in. Because I think most people immediately are skeptical. I was as first. And then as you start to learn more, you can realize what's in this, the good, the bad, because there is bad. There's scammers in every industry you go in, and there's people that will try to scam you. And that's another reason why education is important, because you won't fall for those scams. Because when people come to me after the fact, they're like, I just got scammed. This person was telling me if I invested in this, I would get that. And knowing the basics of how the technology worked, if they'd have known that, they wouldn't have fallen for it, because it didn't make sense what that scammer was telling them. So it's all about, protection, and realize I think this is a system of the future, because I can do business with people all over the world without the need for a bank account, without the need for to use Western Union or MoneyGram. I can pay someone. I think about 12 years ago, I paid someone to do some design work in the Philippines, and that was before I knew about Bitcoin. I wish I'd known about Bitcoin back then, but that was before I really studied it. And so you're talking, he lives in a village that's he doesn't make a ton of money. You consider a very poor village, and he'd have to travel to go get his MoneyGram. And when I sent him the money, I personally I added, because I felt bad for him, I added 30% to what I sent him, because I knew that was going to be taken in exchange rate and fees by the time he got the money.
Right.
And so today, if I was doing business with that guy again today, it would be as simple as getting his wallet address, sending him cryptocurrency, and it goes from me to him instantly without all those middlemen that are just extracting value. And that's really, when you think about, banks that charge fees, Visa, MasterCard, a lot of these, they're basically, they provide a service, but they're a vampire organization to where all they do, they act as a middleman and they extract a piece of that value. And people that own businesses realize that, because when you look at those credit card processing fees, they add up pretty quick.
What are some of the misconceptions about cryptocurrency and blockchain technology that your education content is hoping to kind of dispel and clear up for your users?
Yeah, so outside of the scams that we've talked about, there being scams that are out there, it's really just understanding why it's important. And that it's, because if you don't understand why it's important, most people think of it as just speculative, it's just gambling. There is a lot of speculation. There's a lot of volatility in the market, and so people don't understand. Volatility is normal in early adoption cycles of any technology.
Right.
You look at internet, tech stocks, social media stocks. There's a lot of volatility in the early days, and to realize that there's so much more than this, and focus on the problems that it solves and the benefits. And it's really future proofing. I tell people all the time, we're going to benefit right now from getting involved in this technology from a financial standpoint. But my kids, and especially my future grandkids that hopefully I'll have one day, right? They're gonna grow up in this world to where it's important that they understand it. And so it's important to dispel a lot of those myths. Over the years, there was a lot of them, right? First, it was only used by computer geeks and nerds and everybody. It wasn't for everybody, and it really is. And then it was only used by criminals. And, that I always dispel that one, because criminals are always going to use the best tech that's out there, the most cutting edge tech, because they're always trying to stay a step ahead of the law. And you think about, think about how NASCAR came about and fast cars. It was because of bootleggers and prohibition. And so with this, there's new technology, and so people are going to use it. And so it's not just about scammers. Cryptocurrency and blockchain technology in itself is neutral. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just like it's how you use it, right? If you use it for good, it can be a good thing. I've seen some great nonprofits around the world that have incorporated crypto payments, crypto acceptance, tracking of their supplies using blockchain technology. So they've been able to extract the good out of it, but you've also seen it, be used by people to scam others. But the biggest thing is you need to understand, or people need to understand, it gives you 100% ownership and control of your assets. That is different from any other entity, because when you have money in a bank, as I mentioned before, it may not be all there. And I challenge anybody, if you've got more than 5 or 10,000 in a bank, go to the bank tomorrow and tell them you want to withdraw everything, and see how much friction is in that process and how much questioning. They're going to want to know what you're using it for, why are you using it, right? It's your money. And so this is and that in the US, it happens sporadically, but there's people in other countries that have experienced way worse in terms of the banks, just corrupt banks, just shut, okay, you no longer have access to your money. Or they, the government prints a ton of money, and there's hyperinflation to where overnight, they were saving in a bank, lost 20, 30, 40, 50% of its value overnight. And so instead of relying on some other entity that you have to trust that they won't be corrupt, then what blockchain does, it creates an ecosystem to where you can create trust in a trustless environment. If I send you Bitcoin, you don't have to trust me that Bitcoin is real, right? The network's going to validate it. It's going to, send it to you, and you're sure that you're not getting counterfeit money. And there's a lot of tools in their intermediary too that help people. So one of the biggest things is people are worried about the volatility in crypto right now, with prices going up and down. Well, there's some cryptocurrencies right now that are what we call stable coins. They're pegged to either the US dollar or some other government's currency. So while they'll lose value just as fast as the US dollar will lose value, it's not day to day. Like, you won't wake up tomorrow and it's down 10% or it's up 10%. And that allows you to send those payments. And so we're seeing stablecoin adoption around the world, which is really helping, because if you're in a business that's running on slim margins, you can't take the risk. Okay, I accept this cryptocurrency today, and tomorrow it may be down 7%. Even though it might come back eventually, I need to pay bills with this, right? So creating that intermediary, I think that's where a lot of people are going to start and get their first interactions of actually using cryptocurrency outside of just investing and hoping the price goes up.
Now, I'm curious. This might be a bit of a loaded question, so I apologize if it is. But are there any, like, I mean, with crypto and the legislation, about crypto, is there any kind of hindrance when operating across state lines or operating, between countries? How does that, what is the current, legislation regarding that?
Yeah, so there's not regulatory clarity in the US. There is in other countries, and that's why the US has been stagnant. While other countries have created some kind of framework for that, the US hasn't. And we think that's going to change right now with the current administration. Whether you love them or hate them, a lot of what was stifling innovation in the US and causing companies to just leave the US. I mean, I travel all over the world talking to people about what we do, and I'm having to travel to Dubai, Asia, Europe, just to talk to people from the US that have left because there was no clarity. Nobody wants to start a business and be going tomorrow. But it's something that regulations and government entities are going to have to realize. How can you regulate this without stifling innovation? Because the thing is, when we talk about state lines, country lines, those are all imaginary lines on a map, right? It's the thing about this technology is borderless. I can send from me to you without any intermediary, and that's a good thing. But it's something that it seems like the regulation needs to lie on investment vehicles. Like if you're investing in something, and especially if you're in an entity where they're holding your money for you. So when you think about cryptocurrency exchanges like Coinbase and others, those are what's called centralized exchanges. Even though this cryptocurrency is designed where I can hold it on my own wallet, you're treating them like a bank or a brokerage because you're leaving your funds with them, and you have to trust that they're going to allow you access to your funds and not do anything bad with your funds when they have them. That's what happened with FTX. FTX wasn't a crypto problem. It was a fraud problem. They were misusing users' money. The people had their money and they left it on FTX's exchange thinking that it was still going to be there when they needed it. And so that's where the regulation should lie. That's where, and I think that's what we're going to see, is soft touch regulation, to where, why, if I want to send you money, whether it's through PayPal or Bitcoin, why should some entity have to regulate that for me? Right. It's, it shouldn't be the case. And so cryptocurrency, in that case, it gives you that freedom. And that's not where the regulation should lie. It should lie in any time where someone has more of a centralized control over a user's funds, whether they create an exchange like Coinbase or others where they're holding users' funds, or they create a protocol where they actually still have control to manipulate that protocol. Because with decentralization, it allows more and more users to verify what's happening, and there's less chance of corruption. But when there's still a centralized point of failure, that could be a point of corruption. That's where the regulation, I think, really needs to lie. And we need to get out the fact, like, yes, you think about, people talk about money. How many people are really money laundering? How many people are really avoiding taxes? And you think about, this talk a little over a year ago about anytime you had more than $600 in transactions on PayPal, the IRS wants to know about it. So that means, if my grandmother sends me more than $600 in a year, she's got to report that to the IRS, and then I have to report it too. It's kind of silly, and we should focus on, the bigger pieces of the pie, because when you get out the way of innovation, it really thrives. And you see that. I always go back to the internet, right? Think about if we'd have been very restrictive on the internet. Oh, we got to control that. We can't have everybody just accessing it. Silicon Valley would have happened. It would have been in another country that was more open and inviting to it. And It's the same concept with crypto. It's going to become mainstream. People are going to be using it. There's too many reasons of why it's so much better and easier to use than a centralized system. And better technology always wins out, and so that's going to be kind of the way I see it going. So regulation has to focus on just anywhere where there's centralized control of users' funds or centralized control of a protocol or a network.
And I'm curious because, obviously the big kind of conversation of the day right now in the emerging tech space is AI.
Uh-huh.
How do you think AI is going to impact the blockchain and crypto space?
Yeah, so this is a topic I've talked about recently, and I think it's a symbiotic relationship, because I tell people that blockchain and crypto needs AI, right? AI is going to help make a lot of things simpler and easier for the user, but AI needs blockchain technology as well. Some of the best AI projects that I've used lately are decentralized open systems that are private as well. If you think about when you go to ChatGPT on OpenAI is getting all your information. They're able to get everything and anything. Even if you're asking some proprietary information, you're giving it all away. No different. People say if you go to the new DeepSeek that just came out, where it's a Chinese built entity, where you're giving all your information to the Chinese. At the end of the day, you're giving it to somebody, but there are AI protocols out there now to where you can use some of those best open source models that are out there without giving away all your information. So in a private system. And when the data that's feeding AI or training AI is biased and centralized, then your results are going to be biased and central. And you see that, we've seen that happen, right? Google put out some stuff last year and it was giving like outrageous results when you would search for something. And because it was trying to be unbiased, but at the same time, it was biased towards, whoever put that data in, and it was obvious in the results. And so you need better data in, it'll be better data out. So that's why I say it's kind of a relationship between the two. Also, as you build AI agents that are going to facilitate payments, like say a self-autonomous car, right? Is that car has to be able to schedule its maintenance, pay for gas and everything else. So how is that car going to do that unless it has a human attached to it with a bank account? Whereas with cryptocurrency, digital currency, any AI agent, doesn't have to be a real person, can have a cryptocurrency wallet. And so that's where you're going to see really more usage of AI and automation with cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. So I think it's a symbiotic relationship. Some of my favorite projects in the space right now are ones that they were built by longtime Bitcoin developers and people that have been in the industry for a long time in crypto, and they're building like AI tools. And when I put them to the test, like when I put one of them's called Venice AI, VNICE, Venice AI, when I put that head to head with ChatGPT, I find it kind of blows me away of what I can do. I can search different models. I can get better results. So maybe some of the niche features that ChatGPT adds may not be available yet on Venice, but the performance is way better. When I'm trying to get like real results, real data, and different help with things. So I don't think it's going to be, we're pivoting away from crypto and going into AI. I think those two are going to have, symbiotic relationships to where you're going to need both together.
And I feel like a lot of people, maybe myself included, right? I feel like a lot of people are just, not necessarily avoiding crypto, but are just, uneducated about crypto. And it seems like something that would be, kind of a daunting task or a bit of a big thing to get into. It's a little scary, right?
Yeah.
What would be a piece of advice you could share with our listeners for somebody that, is dipping that toe into crypto, that is trying to get started, working with crypto and understanding crypto? What would be a piece of advice you could share with them?
Yeah, so you don't have to understand it overnight. I mean, it's like learning a new language, right? We didn't learn how to speak in one day. You're not going to understand this in one day. But and I tell most people, one of the pieces of advice I give when they ask me for investment advice, I hate to give, I say your level of investment should match your level of understanding. But there's nothing wrong with starting with a little bit and learning the mechanics of it, how to set up an exchange account, how to set up your own personal wallet, how to send cryptocurrency back and forth using that. That doesn't take much. It only takes a few dollars to test it out and try it out. And it's funny enough, that's how I started with Armando. I was like, all right, let's do this. Now try this. And you'll be more, once you get your feet wet, you're more aware of what's happening, and you have that interest to learn more. And that's why we built our first course that's coming out that for LearnVault, that specifically for LearnVault is called Get Off Zero, because it's not about showing you how to invest your life savings in crypto. That's the last thing we want anybody to do. How to get off zero, right? Understand why it's important. How to set up a wallet. How to get started. There's even some different systems out there to where you can earn crypto. There's a system called Lolly that I teach people that I've been using it since 2018. To when I go to buy stuff online, I use the Lolly web browser plugin, and I earn Bitcoin every time I shop on these websites. Even when I go to Lowe's, Best Buy, Priceline, sometimes I book travel through Priceline or Expedia. And when I do that, I'm earning a small percentage back in Bitcoin rewards. So it costs me nothing. I was going to make that purchase anyway, but then I get a little bit of Bitcoin, and then I understand, okay, how do I withdraw it from that platform to my wallet? And so we like to tell people, think in steps instead of trying to, if you can envision this in your head, trying to drink from a fire hose, it's impossible. You're not going to understand it overnight, but it's important for your future. It's important for your kids' future, and future generations. So it's important to learn it and understand it. And once you get that, you get past the fear. Fear is usually based around a lack of understanding of something. Most people, when they understand something better, that it's better for them. I even joke with my wife sometimes because she doesn't like to ride roller coasters, and the kids, when they were, they were scared to death of riding a roller coaster. Once I was able to get them in and experience one, even if it wasn't a very crazy one at first, like, oh, I love this. Let's try another one. Let's try another one. And it's the same concept with technology. The internet was scary when it first came out, right? People were intimidated. They didn't want to use it unless you had an urge, unless you were like tech curious, or you had a need that you like, oh, I just got to go through the brunt of this and understand this because I need it for my job. Most people don't need to understand cryptocurrency yet, but there's going to be a time where you will. So be proactive now. That way in the future, you're not forced to just try to cram it all in when you start seeing some of these traditional systems you're used to using are going to shift over and start using that technology because it's better, it's more efficient, it's cost effective. And so it's, you don't have to be early, but don't be late to the party.
Right. Well, Wayne, this has been an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for stopping by and talking with us. This has been super informative. If anybody out there listening wants to get started with crypto, could use the services of FIO, how do the people find you?
So myself, I'm on all social media platforms as Blockchain Wayne. Usually have a blue check on those platforms just because I get a lot of imposters. So make sure you click on the verified account. But Blockchain Wayne, LearnVault has its own page. We also have an educational community in school That's SKOOL.com. You can search LearnVault, find us there. And FIO, you want to learn about FIO? We're in a lot of cryptocurrency products already. We're integrated into a lot of those partners. But if you want to learn more about us specifically, go to FIO.net, FIO.net. And also that'll link you to all our socials as well. And we're always, if you follow myself and the FIO channel, Adrian, we're always putting out educational content as well. So it's not just about telling everybody what FIO is, but we put out a lot of educational content to teach people the basics as well. So that's it. Feel free to reach out on any of those platforms if you connect, and be glad to catch up.
That's awesome. Wayne, thank you so much again for stopping by. And thank you everyone for listening. This has been Partnerships for Profit presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Blockchain Wayne, thank you again.
Thanks, Adrian.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.